Alright, so here we're going to go. We're going to keep on running with the linear actuator commands. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put in these commands that we actually put into the system. And we have it all reconnected up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some rungs. So add rung, and I'll start out, I need some rungs. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in, and again, you're going to have to look at the videos that we had under the serial commands for the PLC to maybe understand this, because I'm not going to re-explain everything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a contact, and it's going to be an edge contact. And when we talk to the stepper motor drive to load it in correctly, we have to only send one command at a time. So when I hit the start push button, I want it to go one command. And what I need to do over here is just go into my send. And what I'm going to do is we're going to have port 2, it's ASCII. And what we're going to do for the command, it's going to be quote JS3 and 3. You have to remember that the commands need to be in caps, so the JS has to be in caps. Then we have to embed an ASCII code, and it's going to be the carriage return. And then our next command is the direction, so it's going to be DI, and then it's -1, and that's okay. And we're going to embed the carriage return one more time. And then this last command that we're going to put in here, all we need is something that says commence jogging, which is CJ. And that is going to just start our jogging. Now this should, and I'm going to put the termination code in here, and this wants to be one character, and it's going to be the carriage return. And for over here, I can put these bits in here. I can make this C3, and I can make this one C4. And what we're going to do, so that's our start command. So this should send it back towards the dispenser end. So what we're going to do is copy this one, and we're going to paste him. And we're going to have the same command, except what we're going to do is we're going to change up this to make it go a little slower, and then I have to just change the direction. And everything else is going to be the same. So that's okay, and now I need to change this to reset, which is going to be C003. And now I'm just going to put this, I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste it down here. And this one is going to be for my stop, and so I'm going to make that X001. And this needs, because the stop push button is normally closed, so I need this to be a falling edge. So I'm going to make that a falling edge. And then for the command that I'm sending over here, this last one says commence jog, or that's start the jog. What we need to do here is we need to say we're going to stop the jog. So that is all we need to do. And again, we don't care that these are all C3 and C4, because we're only planning to execute one of these commands at a time. So that's about it. And so what we have here, let's see. So yeah, we'll just load this and see how we are operating. But again, it should run, and then it'll run up until we hit the stop push button. And then when we hit stop, what we'll do is we can either go in the same direction by hitting start again, or we can go in the other direction by hitting the reset push button. So I think we are good. So let's just take a look. So I'm going to go into the start process, and it immediately starts coming back here towards that. So now I hit stop, and now I'll go to reset. And I think what I want to do is I want to kind of move the webcam over there. And we've got a really noisy type of drive going in towards the sorter end. But if I put them here, and again, what we'll do is I am going towards the dispenser with the start push button, and I do that until I hit stop. Now, one of the things we can do in here, and we have done, and it's pretty useful when you get start up, is I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to first go offline, And what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a row or rung, and I'm just going to copy this command, and I'm going to paste it down here. But now I'm going to stop whenever I get to one of my sensor positions. And I don't know if we've discussed it at some point, but the sensor positions for the dispenser is X101, for the hopper it's 102, and then for the sorters it's 103 and 104. So what I'm going to do, and I need to put the instruction, it's going to be normally it's going to be a rising edge contact, but I'm going to change this one to 101, and in parallel, so I'm going to put branches on all these. I'm going to put 102, 103, and 104. And this will be X102. And I think I have one more that I can put in without having to add a row underneath it. And this will be X103, and it's rising edge for all of them. And rising edge is typically what you use. Now for this one I have to add a row underneath him. And here's where my X104 will be. X104. So now when we load the program, what's going to happen is now I can still use my stop push button to stop it at any point that I want. But it's also going to stop at each of the module positions. And this is kind of handy for when you're first calibrating the system or making sure that everything is aligned. You know, is your sensor aligned properly with, you know, where the module is? Is it in, you know, good alignment? And because we disconnected, we'll have to reconnect, and then we'll just reload the program. But it's kind of useful for that, and I just like stopping it at each of the positions. So we're just barely beyond where we are for the dispenser. Here's where the carriage is, and here's where the dispenser is. So when I hit start, it should come immediately towards us, and then it'll stop right on the sensor. And there you go. And you can see, well, maybe you can see, there's a little LED, but it's right on the sensor. You can kind of see that. Now when I go to reset, we're going to go and it'll stop right at the next sensor. So the next sensor is aligned with the hopper position. So in our system here, it has been operational for a while, and so it is in perfect alignment. So now we'll go to the next module position, and it'll stop. Now if I hit the start, it's going to come back towards us. And it sounds a lot better coming this direction. And if any time I want to just stop somewhere in the middle, I'll just hit stop. So normally it'll just stop by itself when it hits the sensor, but you know, it'll also stop when it gets to any module position. So that's what we do for the 4-sensor system. Now what we do for the single sensor position, and what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to go offline for a second, but we have, and let me just show you, when we have these switches that these are kind of handy, but when we went to the Mark II configuration, we put some switches on this control panel. And this third one actually tells us when we're in 4-sensor or single sensor operation. And I'm going to use that, and that happens to be X007. So when we are in, I'm going to put in normally open contact here, and this will be X007. So when I'm in X007, I want it to operate in this fashion when I hit the start. And I'll go down here and put the same bit in for that. And now what I'm going to do for our 4-sensor, and I also want to stop it only when it hits the sensor when I'm in my 4-sensor operation. And let's say that the way we're going to have it is when we're in 4-sensor operation, this is going to be contacting. But now what I want to do is I want to put in the command that will just drive it backwards and forwards. So I'm going to add 2 rungs. And these are simple rungs for when we're doing fixed length. So I'm going to add one for the start command. So I'm going to copy that one. I'm going to put it down here on the first open space. And now I'm going to do the one for the reset. we're going to copy that, and we are going to paste that down here. Now I've got to change these from normally open to normally closed contacts. And this, if you go from the top rung, this automatically allows you to change it on the fly. So I'll go in here, change this to normally closed, and that's done. So now when I hit reset, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my message. And what we need to do is what we had, it's called a fixed link message. And this is what we do for when we're in single system. Now, we have to put in a velocity, so I'm going to put in, and again, it has to be capped, so I'm going to make it velocity 3. And now what I really want to do is, the only other command I really need to do is I need to tell it, well actually, you know, we don't even need a velocity command, but we can put this one in here. I'll put one with the velocity command, and then I'll put the other one with just the steps. So for all these steps, I'm going to run it out for 200,000 steps. And again, that will be 10 revolutions of the motor. So we can delete all this other stuff, and you know, we have our termination code. So this one is going to go, this again is going towards the dispenser because it's negative. Now this other one, I am going to change it, and I'm not going to put in the velocity, I'm just going to put in the step command. So when I hit reset, which I'm going to do initially because we are sitting right on the first position, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all these commands, and all I'm going to do is we got fixed length 200, 1, 2, 3, and we should be good. So now the only thing we want to make sure of is when we turn on is that well, we can turn it on, we'll see what state we're in, and then we'll go into the other position. We'll see it operating with the fixed length. Here we have the velocity. I don't think you can really use a default velocity. In fact, we're unless we have the jogging speed, it does do the default velocity. So let's just connect up and see how this is going to operate. Hopefully this will be okay to start with. This is not where we want to end up, but this should be a good starting point. So we're going to load it in here. We'll see which way our switch is connected up. Okay, so we're going to run. So right now this is saying we are operating in the step mode. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get off the position it's in right now, which right now it's sitting right at the cup dispenser. So I want to be pressing my reset button to start with. I still need, well, actually I don't have my start process really doing anything. So I think if I hit reset, it should start moving towards the sorter end. And it does, and then it stops. Now, that's the default speed. That goes pretty fast. So let's take a look at what VE3 going back in the reverse direction should be. And it should take the exact same number of steps. See, you can see it's a lot slower. And once again, it stops right on our sensor. But let's take a look at it in the super fast mode. And I'm not sure how fast this is, but oh, that one. Oh, okay, so it kept the same speed from the previous one. It must be that it only puts in that speed at the very first time as the default speed, and then just keeps the speed from what we loaded, which would have been the VE3 the first time we did the start. So that was something I wasn't even aware of. Now, the other thing that we have to be aware of when we're doing this, and I'm just going to move it in 10 revolution intervals, and then I'm going to bring it back a little bit. Now, it just stops at that. And I don't know if you can really tell, but it is not stopping at the sensors. So when I come back this way, it passed the hopper sensor, and now it's just beyond the hopper. And now it's going to stop, and now it's not even close to the first sensor. So you can see it's just stopping when the steps have been taken. Now we haven't tried it with the stops push button, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press it and send it towards the sorter end, and I'm going to hit stop. And the stop is totally ineffective. And I'm going to do it the same coming back towards us, and I'm pressing stop, and it's not doing anything. Now, when we started out, and we initially, before we were in the single sensor design, we're in this jogging mode. So when we want to stop it, since we are jogging, we want to stop jogging. Now, that is not going to stop it when it's in this fixed length mode. If we're in the fixed length mode, what we have to do is, so I can kind of put the same normally open contact, so I really only want to operate this when it's in this mode. And down here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this command. And what I have to do now is I have to insert a rung. And now I'm going to paste it. And when you're in fixed, when you're in fixed length moving mode, which is what we do in single sensor, the stop jog is not going to work since we aren't jogging. But there is another command that's called the stop kill command. And what this does is it just totally unloads the data buffer, the buffer inside the stepper driver. Now, this command will work for either if you're in jogging or if you're in fixed length. But if you start out with doing it in jogging, if you think that the SJ is going to stop it, it is not going to stop it. So here we also need to change this to a normally closed contact. So let me just change that, and then we can watch it operate in both modes of operation. So that'll be normally closed. And so now the stop kill is going to kill it when we do it, and then these other commands will only work when we're in the jogging mode. So we'll write it into the PLC. And these are just a few of the things that it's trial and error that we found out some of these things. The important thing is, remember, when you're loading these commands, the way it loads all the time is you have to have these edge triggers. You can only load these commands once. So now I am going to try to go, well now, again, because we just reloaded these commands, I think we might have the default, so it might go full speed when I first hit the reset. Nope, I guess it did. So it's going slow, but now when it's coming back, I'm going to stop it right away. So the stop kill stops it right away. Before it wasn't stopping at all. I'll do it again, it stops it. And now I'll let it go to its end. And you can see the difference. And when I do reset, I'll kill it right away too. And so you need to be aware that it's got to be stop kill when you're doing it in the fixed length mode. If you just want to jog from position to position, the stop jog works fine. So, let's just take a look and say, well, can we transition from one to the other? And so now when we hit, now if we're in here, when we hit reset, we're going to stop at the hopper position and then just stop there. And actually, it kind of sounds like our motor sounds a little more sick when it's actually going slower. I just realized that this sounds better, but it's also a higher jogging speed. So one last thing, and it's going to stop at the dispenser position. So just see if we get some understanding of what's going on here, I'm going to change this to a jogging speed 4. And then see if my noise problem goes away a little bit. So let's just write this project in. And that was just something I was kind of thinking about while I was kind of doing this video. I'm thinking why it's noisy in one direction more than the other. So again, what we're going to do, well, what we have to do right now is I'm going to temporarily move it here because right now it wants to immediately start going back towards the dispenser, but it's already at that position. So now I'm going to just go fixed length. And now because, let's see, so I'll do this again, and now I'll switch it into just moving from station to station. So now we'll go backwards, and it sounds pretty nice, and let's see what it sounds like when we have the higher speed going towards the sorter, and if it sounds any better. And actually it does sound better. It sounds a lot better. So that noise we were hearing was really from this being low in speed. Now, I'm not mechanical, so I don't know why that is, but this is just this is how we just play around with getting our stepper motors working, and this is pretty good procedure if you're doing it for the first time. This shows you how you set it up for in the 4-sensor operation, and this shows you how we do it in the single sensor, just moving from position to position. And you can see that 20,000 doesn't get you anywhere near the hopper. The hopper, and I don't have the number right in front of me, but it's more like 500,000. So since we are right now sitting at the cup dispenser, if we hit the reset right away, it should get a lot closer to the hopper. And actually, I'm thinking that we might get beyond the hopper. But let's take a look at where it ends up. So we're ready to go, and I want to make sure that I'm in the fixed length mode. So now we're in fixed length. If I hit reset, we're going towards the hopper. And let's see how well we did with 500,000. And that gets us right on there. So it is 500,000 in this setup. And that's one last thing to remember too when you're doing this is, if we say your setup is not going to be exactly like our setup, and it is 20,000 steps per revolution. So if your setup's off by a half an inch, your actual count may be off by 10,000 steps. But that's kind of how we operate the linear actuator in the trainer system. So you can have a lot of fun with this, and again, we only use a handful of commands. You should be able to take a look at the commands if you want to experiment, if you want to do different things with the stepper motor, and have at it. So we'll see you next time.